Okay, we're back with Eliza Archery podcast episode number 6 after a 5-month hiatus. Number one fan has contacted us today and asked us to get another one out. So here we are, true to form. Today on the podcast we have myself, Alec, Ben Howell and Maddie Boyle.
Hi.
Yep, that's where you say hi. So we're going to make this a relatively quick one today. We are driving, so if there's some background noise, that is from the car, so we apologise for that.
Or Ben road raging.
So the first thing we want to talk about today is shooting in the wind. So today we just got back from Victor Harbour. We're just on the way back to Adelaide now. It's pretty windy. We all shoot recurve, but have shot compound at various stages as well. So maybe Ben, if you want to lead off, talk about what you did in the wind today, what you struggled with, what worked well.
Okay, so today I did struggle with getting through my clicker. I found on a lot of my ends when I shot better, I was just really aggressive and focusing on like pushing through my hand. Plus, just having the confidence to go, doesn't matter, like if I shoot this within, 4 seconds or so, it's going to end up somewhere in the red, which is going to be a lot better than if I hold and try and shoot a 10 and get unlucky and sometimes even like shoot as badly as a miss or a white. So that's what I really tried to do. I didn't want to move my clicker or anything like that. I know some people decide to move their clicker, but really, like, if your clicker's in the right position for when you're training normally, there's no point changing it in a competition. What you need to do is shoot like how you do in practice. So that's just what I tried to do, and just not let the weather get to me. Try and stay as much like focused on my own shooting as possible, really.
Yeah, and I think we will get to Maddie. You can be next. I think for myself as well, it's very similar. I think shot timing's really important, whether it's recurve or compound. I think ultimately the quicker you can get up there and make a controlled shot, you don't just want to fling the arrow, you still want to make it a good arrow. But the quicker you get up there and don't let yourself be blown around as much. I think it comes down to two things you can do to kind of prepare yourself for shooting in the wind. One, if you're going to aim off, is making a conscious decision, like give yourself the extra second before you pull the bow back to consciously decide where you're going to aim. Because if you're changing your mind at full draw, that's when you're going to be holding for a long time. And just kind of committing to the shot. So once you get up there, you know where you're going to aim, you're going to make a quick shot. Not second guessing yourself, because that's where you're going to run into trouble. And Maddie, what's your views?
Going off by what Ben said about the whole clicker position, completely agree with it. It's just when I opened my case and to set my bow up, starting to shoot, I realised my clicker had moved in transit, so that was a bit of a struggle trying to find that positioning to start off with. But I think it was more just the wind was easy to aim in, but because I've got low poundage, the arrow gets drifted all over the place. I was happy though with some of the groupings I got throughout the day. As the wind picked up and then fatigue set in, scores definitely dropped. But other than that, it was a good day.
Would you do something different, recurve to compound?
In terms of...
Like the way you'd shoot it?
Everything with swarm, I think holding is similar with push and pull. Compound you seem to get blown up around a lot more in the wind compared to recurve. So I found recurve to aim in the wind is a bit easier than compound, but because I've got such low poundage on the recurve, I find that my arrows just get blown around all the place.
So you find recurve would be easier in the wind than the compound though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. But then generally everything else with a recurve is harder. Mental game for both sides is pretty equal.
Would you, when you were shooting compound, did you do anything with your release? Like, did you change release aids or anything like that?
Nah, I hear a lot of people always swap between button and back tension. Even in windy conditions, I always stuck with a back tension no matter what. I didn't really like to change between the two. And I've shot back tension for the 8 years of compound I did. So I think that helps the transition into recurve as well with my release and follow through. That's why it's good to cross train between the two, I think, which is why you do well with both of them. And I think I was able to pick up my release pretty quickly with the recurve from that.
And I think, especially in the wind, like I know I've struggled a lot in the wind with compound, a lot more than most people would. And some people are really good at being able to effectively punch the trigger in the wind. But I'm one of those people where as soon as my dot hits the middle, if I press the trigger, that quickly progresses into my dot hitting the target and then pressing the trigger, and then my dot hitting the target butt and then pressing the trigger, which quickly progresses to arrows in the tyre and the flag or target number, which isn't conducive to high scoring.
Not at all.
So I know personally it helps. So normally I'd shoot a hinge with a click. If I go to a hinge without a click and then just shoot it the way I would with a recurve, just try and make a shot with really good timing. So just get up there and get on the hinge really quickly. And again, I think you've got that sweet spot where once you're up there, if you make that shot go within 2 or 3 seconds, you kind of, even if it's blowing, like you're still strong at that point. You haven't kind of weakened where you're going to be blown around a lot. Plus whatever decision you made with your aiming, it's usually going to be pretty accurate. You haven't given time for the wind to change, so shot timing is definitely important. Would either of you change your bow setup for the wind?
You could change your stabilizer setup. I know some people like to increase the weight of their setup just so it's like harder to blow it around. Of course, like the adverse effect to adding weight to your setup means that if you get blown off the target, you're then having to move that increased amount of weight back onto it. So there's a bit of give and take there. Another way too is some people like to drop weight. So even though they're getting blown around a bit easier, it's easier for them just to bring it back to normal. Personally, I don't really do anything to my actual bow setup with it. If anything, I might just, even if I had the opportunity, I might chuck like maybe a shorter long rod up. Maybe put like a little bit more weight so the balance is around the same. But just like the less length you have in your rods and everything like that, the less there is to actually blow around. Like I remember when I shot Youth Worlds back a couple years ago now, one of the top female compounders actually took off. She had 2 side rods and a long rod. She actually took her long rod off and took one of the side rods and put it on the front with the amount of weight she normally had on her long rod. And she made that work really well. And I saw quite a few people actually checking that out and like trying that out on the target range. And I tried it myself and I actually found that it was actually pretty useful in the wind. Sort of like a benefit you would get if you were shooting more of like a bow hunter style in target, of course, being within like the regulations. Yep.
It must have been pretty windy to get to that point though. To want to stick a short rod on the front.
Yeah, no, that was probably close to the worst conditions I've ever shot in wind-wise. I think the gusts were getting up to like 60 Ks, 70 Ks maybe. But at that point, had actually been eliminated, so I didn't really notice it too much from the grandstand, unluckily.
I think there's a trade-off as well, especially with stabilizers, where people tend to go really heavy in the wind, which is fine because you're going to move around less. But once you got a real heavy bow and you put a lot of weight on your rods, if the wind blows you off, say you're aiming in the middle and it blows you off to left 6, you've then got to pull all that weight back to the middle again and use more energy. Huh? I know you said that, I'm expanding on it.
Okay.
And you'll look at like a lot of the archers, like the Koreans, who've traditionally used a fairly lightweight stabilizer setup on their recurves, with the theory being if you get blown off, you'll come back on quicker as well. So it's interesting to see how people can kind of succeed with both setups. So like Ben was saying, if you're taking off essentially 2/3 of the stabilization you've got on your bow, kind of goes to that light setup, easily maneuverable. So if you get blown off, you're back on it really quick. But there's no real set rules. It's just kind of understanding it and playing around with both.
Just knowing how you shoot your bow.
Yeah.
Like if you're a super aggressive, strong, like if that's how you shoot your shot, then you can probably get away with having a bit more weight. And if you're like more of a relaxed, like letting the bow do a lot of the work, then a heavy setup's not going to really work for you that well. It's just going to be a bit uncontrollable.
Yeah, that's right. Did you have anything else to add, Maddie?
I feel like generally with compound, that's our first resort is to chuck more weight on there because we haven't really got much else to rely on to help in the wind apart from pulling really hard into the wall. Compared with, that was my first thought today with the recurve as well, thinking, I wish I had more weight on my bow. But I think it was just a case of I need to build more strength, gain a bit more poundage, maybe add a bit more weight on the bow. But I think it just comes to your stability in like your core and just holding on that weight, something strong.
Yeah, I think the better your shot structure is, the better you're going to be able to withstand. I think, having a good stance and using your core properly makes a big difference too.
A stronger core is going to be a big help in wind. See, the archers that really put time into their body outside of just shooting arrows definitely have a bit of like a big advantage on the target range.
Yeah.
The line was a bit iffy today. There was some parts that, especially in my section, on the shooting line, it was a bit uneven in the ground. So I was right up against the edge of my lane to try and get a flat surface.
Which makes life difficult.
Yes. Definitely makes it difficult.
Alright, so that's probably a good topic, good coverage of the topic of shooting in the wind. We're going to make this a pretty short podcast, but one other thing that we might touch on, seeing as we have Maddie in the car, is Maddie has shot compound for how many years?
7 or 8.
7 or 8 years, and has shot recurve for about 4 months. What indoor score did you shoot within a month of shooting recurve?
Oh, it was I think a month into it, a 282.
Yeah, there you go, 282 with a recurve after a month, which is pretty frustrating for any other recurver who spent several years getting to that stage. But we're all happy for her, so it's okay.
Ecstatic.
Did you want to talk to your crossover between compound to recurve?
My main reason, because a lot of people are asking whether I'm going to make the switch permanently, and I think I've already thought of my short-term goals and my long-term goals, and I'm pretty sure I want to stick with this for the long haul. Seeing my goals and then seeing my progression too, I've gained like 50 points since when I first started, 50 to 80 points easily since when I first started with recurve. And my main reason for just quitting compound was I didn't quit, I'll still do it. It was just the mental frustration with it. Not shooting a 10 and just thinking, well, I'm crap, basically, because I didn't shoot 10. Compared with recurve is you can have a bad end and still
be in it. Yeah,
you can be in the game. It's set point system in match play, whereas with compound you go into matches and you shoot a 7, it's like, well, I'm done now. You shouldn't think like that, obviously, because you don't know what the other archer's going to do.
But statistically, it's the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like 80% of the time.
Yeah, I do agree, and I have said this before, but I think compound match play isn't match play. It's a shorter ranking round, and recurve match play, the way they do set systems, is the proper way to do it, because, like Maddie said, you can have a bad arrow and come back from it, or use a bit of strategy. Did you find you enjoy sets more than shooting the 15 arrow match?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's just made... I look forward, after I finished a ranking round, and then thinking before I was like, I have to shoot more arrows now. Now it's awesome, sets, this is going to be fun. It's like a treat, I guess, in a way, compared to the compound match. But back in Spain, this is just before I decided to drop compound. It was my last big tournament for the Youth Worlds. I shot like a 684 or something, 682 in the practice range. Went over onto the shooting line. Changed nothing. Mental game was on point. I started shooting and it just wasn't coming together, and I walked away with was like 6:40, 6:30, something horrendous, and the conditions weren't bad. They didn't change at all.
Which is the joys of archery in a nutshell.
Yeah, basically.
Notorious.
Is there anything else you guys wanted to add before we close up this podcast?
Not really. I think just as long as like when you're shooting in the wind, you try and avoid like over aiming. Don't think too much about what your pin's doing or your dot or whatever you use. At the end of the day, like if you shoot strong shots, you're gonna get more in the middle than if you try and just always aim them in the middle. Just because the wind's gonna put your dot wherever it wants, but the wind can't have an impact on how you shoot the arrow. So only you can shoot the arrow. So I think it's pretty important just to focus on that.
I think the other thing too is, I think everyone should give a go at both sides, recurve and compound. Even though you've been shooting compound for years and years, and you might have a negative view on recurve, give it a go. You never know. It could be good cross training. That's one of the biggest things is cross training.
What about Longbow?
Great cross training.
They have the best time. They're always laughing.
My back had hurt from pulling arrows out of the ground. Alright, so one shameless little plug at the end as well. We have just fixed up the Eliza Archery mobile website, so it should hopefully be a lot more mobile friendly now if anyone's shopping on there. If anyone is using that website and has any feedback as well, please feel free to let us know. We'd like to see any adjustments to it as well. We'll try and get out podcasts more frequently than every 6 months because we have been pretty slack. So if anyone's got any topics they'd like us to address in future podcasts, you can hit us up at the Eliza Archery Instagram, or you can message us on the Eliza Archery Facebook as well. Otherwise, signing off for now.